Welcome, everyone. It's a great privilege for us to be today with Dr. Raymond Keller, Solar System Explorer, author, scholar, Venus visitor, and contactee. Welcome, Raymond.
Thank you. Thank you, Alfred. It's a great pleasure to be here again and to speak with you and to share very important information apparently lost on this timeline that I will be imparting today.
Excellent. And we have a multi-level program for you. Raymond, Dr. Keller, has written a book review of our new book that is now out on Amazon. It's in pre-order now. It'll be available as of March 1st, but you can go onto Amazon, just search for our name, Alfred Lambert Weber, the Chronogarchy, and he's written an excellent scholarly authoritative book review. Do you want to show that book review?
Sure.
Yeah,
I'll be happy to do that. And I'm going to put that up. And I'll go ahead and read it as well as they can follow along with me.
Sure.
This is a book review of the Chronogarchy for Universe Books, available on Amazon.com and also from Universe Books. Alfred Lambert Weber, JD, Master of Education, is a graduate of Yale University and Yale Law School and a former Fulbright Scholar. He has taught economics at Yale University and constitutional law at the University of Texas. In addition, he served as a former general counsel to the New York City Environmental Protection Administration and former director of the 1977 President Jimmy Carter White House Extraterrestrial Communications Study and former NGO, non-governmental organization delegate to the United Nations. The author of Exopolitics, Politics, Government, and Law in the Universe, is a recognized father of exopolitics, the science of relations among intelligent civilizations throughout the multiverse. Now, Alfred Lambert Weber has come out with a new book, the Chronogarchy, Universe Books ebook, available on Amazon.com. So those of you who order the books on Amazon, I checked it out. I wanted to order one, but they said it's being released on the 1st of March. The word chronography is a neologism that signifies those who rule through time, or in other words, through the manipulation of time. These are wizards standing behind curtains and directing the matrix system to which we find ourselves subjected. The exopolitical expert describes the Chronogarchy as an interdimensional alliance dedicated to the oppression of the community of human souls and includes factions in human institutions such as religions, governments, military intelligence agencies, bloodline families, monarchies, media, medical, pharma, as well as archonic spiritual entities, including fallen angels, demonic entities, and exophenotypes hostile to the community of human souls, such as the Draco reptilians, Orion Greys, and sentient artificial intelligence. So if you want to liberate yourselves of these evil influences, this is a great start by informing yourself of just who these entities and who these personages are that we're dealing with here, even at supernatural levels. So in the Chronography, Alfred Lambert Weber delves into the real nature of space, time, and interdimensionality. He interviews many of the leading authorities and experiencers in these fields. thereby facilitating an awareness of the people, powers, and organizations constituting the network of the chronography's existence, helping us to formulate viable defense strategies in the coming years of increasing tribulations. And isn't it interesting that this book comes out now on, and we're talking about it on Groundhog Day, because every time that we've woken up in the past 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days, it's the same old thing, isn't it? I mean, we have this unending virus, all these new variants, lockdowns, and the whole society is just being dragged through the mud, so to speak. So for some pertinent video interviews conducted by Alfred Lavermont Weber with many of those in the know about the chronography, you can check out Exopolitics TV at the website indicated in the review, of which I imagine that this interview will become an integral part of.
Oh yes. Well, thank you so much, Raymond, for that very generous and authoritative book review. Incidentally, you see, this is for pre-orders. People can go on Amazon and pre-order the ebook. Amazon only allows pre-orders on ebooks, that is their Kindle. But as of March 1st, readers, and I've had a number of readers contact me and say, hey, I love soft covers. As of March 1st, you'll be able to order it both in a Kindle ebook form and in soft cover, and it will be available at all of the other places that good books are, Barnes and Nobles and all of those places everywhere. And we have a new learning platform called Omniversity. So you'll be able to go to omniversity.us, which is our bookstore, and we hope that you'll be joining us there as a faculty member, because you've got a wealth of knowledge at omniversity.us. But you can always go to Omniversity and you'll find the Chronogarchy book. There is both it's both a nonfiction treatise. This is the nonfiction. We also wrote a novel, which got a NaNoWriMo award. Of course, everybody who finishes NaNoWriMo gets an award. What's very interesting there, the plot of the one of the subplots of the novel is that the timelines, the natural Earth timeline and the artificial intelligence timelines split in 2022, the year of the publication of the Chronogarchy book. And we located last night and published an article because Chandler Saratoga Ocean just channeled a major video saying that the splitting of the timelines is becoming visible. And it's a 2022 video that was published on January 11, 2022. And that's the prediction in the novel. Isn't that an amazing synchronicity?
Oh, yes. Alfred, I don't believe there's any such thing as coincidences anymore. That's a pure synchronicity. It's just fated to be that way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much for really taking time to delve into the Chronogarchy book and providing readers with that authoritative review, because many people look to you as an authoritative source and guide, and we're very privileged and honored that you did so. Now, I know that you have a very exciting slideshow, so we're going to sit back and really enjoy it. So please.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. This is my new book. In fact, they just delivered like 8 boxes of them here at my at my door, and the rest of them are going to fill some pre-orders out at Amazon.
Nice.
So it's a very exciting book. There's 11 chapters in here about information that has been long lost, and I recovered in my files. Tried to preserve it the best I can. I have a cold storage facility here in the backwoods of West Virginia, where I keep all my documents and photos and everything from the 1950s forward. And the first two books in here, there's a short introduction to Venus in history with the Knights Templar, going all the way back to, Solomon's Temple and everything, and the Rosslyn Chapel over in Scotland. And then the second chapter is very in-depth, and it explores all of the connections of the development of the real secret space program. So I give you the names of scientists and personnel working on black projects, the corporations they worked for, their connections with the government, complete with photos and everything that I do, just like in Alfred's book. They're all footnoted, so you could check them out and see for yourself what's really going on. So let's jump right into it here. Okay. All right. This is the title of the book, Flying Saucers from Venus They Come. This summer, I'm going to be with my friend Omnek Onek's team over in Germany. We'll be there for a month and traveling around to different cities. Also one in Austria, and be flying into Zurich. But Omnek has a book out called From Venus I Came. And I like the title, but I wanted to put the emphasis in this book on the spacecraft, especially, and how they're powered up and so forth, and their point of origin and their inspiration for scientists to create spacecraft of our own that mimic the flight characteristics, speed, and maneuverability of the Venusian Ventless or scout ships. So flying saucers from Venus, they come. And we're going to go from the current slide. Okay. So we see on the cover, this is a Venusian that was that she materialized on a beach in Australia, and all that information was of that incident was used as the as the modus inspiration for the cover. Okay, so we have, with the help of other contactees, scientists, and ufologists, I examine the physical and superphysical aspects of the enigmatic flying saucers and their crews. I peer into some of the darker aspects of the UFO enigma, to include cases of missing experiencers and the dangers of being ensnared in flying saucer cults. I know that George Adamski and many of the other contactees never meant for their teachings and their works to be turned into to cults, and I explore all of that in the latter chapters of these books. Yes.
Could I ask you just one detailed question that has always fascinated me? I've noticed you can keep in fact, you should keep the slide there, because I have a question about the particular slide that's on there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If we could go back to the PowerPoint.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Yeah, I didn't mean to get you off track. I just wanted to ask a
Oh,
question
yeah.
about that slide.
Oh, no, no problem.
My apologies.
And we're sharing and,
Yeah. Oh, there. Oh,
uh-oh.
okay.
Uh,
It's gonna come in.
Share. Oh, sharing. And it's this one. Okay, there we go.
There we go. Yeah, and in future, if I raise my hand to ask a question, it's just because I have a question about that particular slide. You don't have to go off. I've noticed in following your work on the Venetians that a red beret, Venetians often are wearing red berets when they're at public events or walking around. What is the significance or origin of that red beret? Does it have any significance, or is it just that Venetian was wearing a red beret?
No, there is a significance to it. Venusians have always been on our side, working behind the scenes in the cause of liberty. Many of them were living and operative beginning around the times of the French and American Revolution, and that was a garb symbolic of the ideals of those movements.
So it's the French and American Revolution
Yes.
that the Venusian visitors were involved in, actually walking around here on Earth. And since red berets were worn at that time, then the Venusian visitors continue to wear red berets as kind of a symbolic reminder or embodiment of those ideals.
Oh,
is that correct?
Yes. That is correct. And
wow, that's amazing.
When we look back at the activities of the Venus Lodge in Pennsylvania with Ben Franklin and so forth, the various visitors that had materialized with the case of Thomas Jefferson and also Franklin and Jefferson. They lived in Paris and so forth. So there's a lot of historical connections to all of this that are explored in these Venus books.
Fascinating. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Okay, so I look at some of the Knights Templar and the Venus connection. These are these stars here as the pentagram of King Solomon and Venus in the Theosophical Lodge, representing the most powerful and occult of all worlds, as the preeminent theosophist Helena Blavatsky had said. But in the Masonic Lodge, for example, Venus is the flaming star, the flaming star, and the 5 points indicate the conjunctions of Venus with the Earth at its 5 most closest points and equidistant points. And what's interesting about Venus and the Earth and the orbits of these planets is that although Venus is closer to the sun, but it turns out that for every and Venus has a near circular orbit, and for every higher Fibonacci number of orbits represented by Venus going around the sun, the next lowest number in the Fibonacci sequence represents exactly the orbits of the Earth. So there is this unique relationship there that is that astrologers are well aware of and probably have been since the days of King Solomon. So the Knights Templar had come back from the Crusades and so forth. They went up to Scotland and they founded the Rosslyn Chapel, and there's many indications and markings there. But I found documentation of the appearance of unidentified flying objects, especially during the inauguration or dedication of that chapel in the year 1490. So they actually began the work on it in the 12th century. But it took quite some time to finish it, and I think everybody will appreciate that particular chapter. Some of the things that are mentioned in there, of course, are these are sacred things, not so much secret, but sacred. Sacred things, like all things pertaining to religion. They're more than symbolic, and in many cases they're quite literal. Okay, now I begin to look at the development of anti-gravity spaceships and so forth, and this is something that has been more than a dream. This is 1875 to 1947. Carl Schappeler was a German ether physicist, and a diagram for his device, an advanced generator that set up an ether flux along the lines of an electric field. So Schappeler's work in ether physics formed the basis for the later creation of a German flying saucer prototype toward the end of World War II. And this is from a newspaper. This photo comes from a Sunday section newspaper in the British Isles. They were talking about the connection of the Nazis with secret weapons, Foo Fighters, and so forth. These objects seen during World War II, and according to the research that I could do on it, the Nazis only had one prototype of a saucer that flew for the first time on Valentine's Day in 1945 outside Prague, Czechoslovakia. But sabotaged by the internal German resistance and Allied air raids, thwarted the various Nazi secret weapons projects from coming to their full fruition and deployment. Thank God for that. And these are levity discs in the United Kingdom. This came to my attention through some newspaper clippings and also some articles in the Electric Spacecraft Journal out of North Carolina. But in 1968, a British electronic wizard, John R.R. Searle, now 90 years old this year, designed, built, and remotely flew over 20 different kinds of flying saucers, which he referred to as levity discs. Here is a photo with Searle seen with one of his prototype discs with a diameter of slightly over 30 feet hovering in the background. The design came from ideas he had first conceived back in 1949 while working as an electronic and electrical fitter for the Midlands Electricity Board in Worcester, United Kingdom. So sometimes, the brightest ideas come from people just working on the job or working in their garage and stumbling across something. It doesn't always take a big committee to come up with an idea and follow through on it. And I thought this gentleman was very inspirational in what he was doing. So this is me exploring all these different scientists and theories about electromagnetic effects associated with this operational levity disk. And one of the effects of the Searle generator, as it's called, is demonstrated in this UFO photograph that I found, taken by, this is in a Beaver County, Pennsylvania newspaper, and it indicated that on the 8th of August, 1965, around 11:30 p.m., James and his brother John, age 23, went out to take some photographs of a full moon that night. And what happened was a very bright moon, big moon that night. And this object turned up. It appeared as if it was just taking off in a field outside the edge of a wooded area. So the glow surrounding the UFO is a clear demonstration of the Searle effect. This is where the atoms in atmospheric molecules are ionized by the energized power coils of an interplanetary spacecraft. And frequently when I'm at various UFO lectures and so forth, I'll show some of Adamski's, Menger's, and I have some photos too, but they're kind of blurry, of some objects coming off, smaller objects coming off of a larger one. So they're in the vicinity of a magnetic field. So they light up and with all kinds of colors and glowing and aural effects. And that accounts for many of the UFOs just being seen as blobs of light rather than solid objects, especially at night when most UFOs are seen. So here's pioneer inventor John Roy Robert Searle, and this is the last photo that I could find of him. This was taken 8 years ago. He formed his own company to do research and publishes a journal. Now this is a very interesting case because this is, we looked at Germany, we looked at England, and now I want to turn my attention to anti-gravity research in the United States. There was a financial investment guru by the name of Robert W. Babson. He declared a one-man war on gravity following the drowning of his older sister. She was pulled down to the bottom of the river outside of Gloucester, Massachusetts during his youth. In the start of 1949, he used vast personal funds to establish the Gravity Research Foundation in New Boston, New Hampshire. And he amassed his money basically as a young stock market genius. He applied the principles of physics and mathematics and science to create trading techniques, and he amassed a fortune with this kind of pitchfork trendline investment indicator, which one of his students refined even more as the Andrews pitchfork. So you draw a nominal line through zigzagging market action on financial charts, establishing perimeters for market fluctuations, for buy and sell signals. And he was able to successfully predict the stock market crash in 1929 and take out all of his money. And he established the Gravity Research Foundation by 1949 and started giving out huge financial awards to various scientists from around the United States initially, and then from around the world. And these scientists would later be recruited by various agencies within the United States government, especially the Defense Department and intelligence agencies, to work on developing interplanetary, what they call G-ships, which we'll explore a little bit today. So this is the visionary Babson on the left, who funded the initial anti-gravity studies. In his later years, Babson continued to ponder a utopian future where the application of anti-gravity technology would become a reality. This photo comes from the Babson College archives at Babson Park, Massachusetts. So Babson, before he became a financier, he originally learned all of these mathematical investment skills by applying mathematical principles that he earned in getting a degree in engineering. This is a little cartoon from the newspaper, a comic book art called Tiger Men of Mars for Buck Rogers 2429 AD. This comic strip by Philip Nolan and Richard Calkins. And I thought it was interesting because during the Great Depression and slightly before that, science fiction was a new kind of genre that was attracting a lot of interest and inspiring a lot of people to look into the reality of one day making space travel and anti-gravity spacecraft more than a dream. So we're halfway there, and probably more than halfway based on all this information. Now, this is the first winner of the Gravity Research Fund, financial award winner of 1949, David B. Whittrey, PhD, materials science and electrical engineering. His award-winning paper was the possibility of discovering an absorber, insulator, or reflector for gravity waves. So we're already thinking of applications and ways in which we could measure gravity and work with gravity with various mechanisms. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Just a quick question. In your own words, I know they say gravity waves. In your own waves, could you tell us in simple terms, what is gravity? What do you understand by gravity?
Okay. Gravity is a phenomena that's it's definitely associated with electromagnetism. And in the world of ufology, one of the best explanations of it was in George Adamski's 1961 book called Flying Saucers Farewell. And it was that particular chapter, I think it's chapter 2 or 3 that deals with gravity. It was co-written by a gentleman named Carroll A. Honey, who worked as an aerospace space engineer. And so a lot of people think of Adamski purely in these metaphysical constructs, but he was very much into the real Venusian technology behind anti-gravity spaceships and how electromagnetism works as far as a system of propulsion for flying saucers.
It's
very complicated, but in this book, I explain it all in detail and go into all the theories of all these people so that you get a good understanding of just how it works.
Well, thanks very much. I look forward to learning more about gravity. Thank you.
Oh, you're quite welcome. So this is the second winner. This was 1950. Richard Allen Farrell, a physicist. His paper was on the possibility of new gravitational effects. Much like maybe he had some knowledge of the research being done by Mr. Searle over in the British Isles, because it's along that same kind of line of thinking. 1951, we start to go into materials. Thermodynamics, Myron Jordan Lover, PhD, thermodynamic aspects of gravithermals. So what he's saying that it's basically a gravithermal is that kind of alloy which can be heated or cooled by gravity waves. And here's a replica of an I-beam composed of an unknown alloy inscribed in hieroglyphics and recovered from the Roswell, New Mexico UFO crash site on the 7th of July, 1947 by Army Air Corps Crash Retrieval Detachment personnel. And then as I was researching all this, I was also coming across, alternate theories to physical spaceships. And this is an interesting gentleman from New Zealand. His name is Trevor James Constable, and he appeared at the 1957 Interplanetary Spacecraft Convention at Giant Rock in Landers, California, to discuss the idea that some of the UFOs themselves were some kind of ethereal beings from a quantum dimension, projecting only the image of physical spaceships. I thought that was a very interesting concept that could be followed up with further research, because really we don't hear too much about that today. But from a metaphysical point of view, it does make sense that that's another avenue of looking at the flying saucer enigma. So this is an ultraviolet camcorder footage of bioelectric phenomena similar to that described by Constable. These photos were taken by paranormal researcher Nick Hayes on the roof of his home on the outskirts of Oxford in the UK on the 18th of July, 2016. Hayes speculated that the UFO might be some type of Orgone energy manifestation. So Orgone energy is actually generated through the human aura. Our very heart is an electric generator, and the Orgone energy seems to be tied into the human sexual drive. But it's all pretty deep stuff, but I do explore that in the book. Now, the third winner was Strasser Gabor. He had a Master of Science, born in 1929 in Budapest, Hungary. He became a research engineer at Bell Aircraft and a project leader at Boeing Airplane Company, and was a scientific advisor to President Richard M. Nixon. So we see these various people associated with the Gravity Research Foundation, how they're rising to higher levels within the government. And his paper was Gravity and the Dimensional Constant G. As more of the pioneer anti-gravity researchers were hired by defense contractors, they were directed to various black projects developing advanced aircraft that could compete with the speed and maneuverability of the UFOs. This is an early NATO black project, the Avro Disk, between the United States and Canada. As we know, Canada and the United States were the primary founding members of NATO back in 1949. But since the dawn of the age of flying saucers in the summer of 1947, the space vehicles of our own have been foremost in the mind of defense planners. At right, we see an artist's conception of vertical rising dish-shaped aircraft under development in the mid to late 1950s for the U.S. Air Force through a contract with Avro Aviation Limited, headquartered in Toronto, Canada. Now, I found this interesting article. This is from the 14 April 1959 edition of the Toronto, Canada Telegram newspaper. And it describes the amazing flight characteristics of a U.S. Department of Defense contracted flying saucer that was built by the Avro Corporation. Depicted here is in sharp contrast to the one displayed on the next slide that I'm going to show, that was previously revealed in the U.S. newspapers after a big hullabaloo of censorship. This is the only thing that came out about what they were working on. So this is a clear case of disinformation. It looks like nothing more than an amusement park ride. In other words, nothing to see here, move right along. Declassified version of the V-79 Avro cars unveiled by the Air Force was nothing like the perfected version revealed by the Avro Corporation in the following year. So how could they go from this thing, this whirligig thing that just goes 2 feet off the ground to a hypersonic vehicle in less than 1 year? So more of the mushroom principle. They keep us in the dark and feed us manure. It's pitiful, really. Now, this is from my Venus files from the year 1955. Now, a whole lot of stuff from 1955. A lot of it from James Talbot, who was an aviation editor in New York with the Herald Tribune, the overseas edition. This is Dr. Charles T. Dozier on the left, the senior research engineer and guided missiles expert of the Convair Division of General Dynamics, conducting an anti-gravity research experiment with Martin Kaplan, Convair's senior electronics engineer. There was this November of 1955, there was right before Thanksgiving, there was a week-long meeting with all the scientists and corporate leaders working on anti-gravity to share information on government contracts and the development of all this equipment. This is George S. Trimble Jr., the vice president in charge of advanced design planning at Martin Aircraft that would one day become Martin Marietta Corporation, organizes the Research Institute for Advanced Study to investigate gravitational effects. At a meeting in Maryland, Trimble discusses the application of anti-gravity research to aviation with 2 Martin Aerospace scientists, J.D. Pearson in the center and William B. Yates on the right. Now, this is Carroll A. Honey. He worked for Hughes Aircraft, as interestingly enough, George Van Tassel and some of the other contactees, Daniel Fry, Orfeo Angelucci, they all seem to have some Hughes Aircraft connection that are explored in some of my other Venus books. But Carroll Honey, in September of 1961 at his Pasadena, California home, said, quote, "I have been present with Adamski in 1955 when various representatives of the government or the military were at his residence asking for information. I still back up his original contact claims and was with him on one of them." So these aren't fly-by-night people. These are people involved in the aerospace industry, and they're all involved with they're all involved in research and anti-gravity in rocketry, and of course the famous Jack Parsons, who founded the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. He was steeped into the occult and looking for extraterrestrials out in the desert with L. Ron Hubbard, who was the founder of Scientology. So all this stuff is this stuff is for real, and when you look into it, you'll find that that it goes much deeper than you could ever imagine. Adamski on Venusian gravity manipulation. Yeah, it was chapter 3. So that's the one, spaceships and gravity in flying saucers farewell. He describes the principles of pro-gravitic propulsion, and also in my book, Final Countdown, Rockets to Venus, I go into that even deeper about how the Venusian Ventlas work, with a description from one of the pilots in like a question and answer session. Okay, this is Flying Saucer of the Future. Now, Eugene M. Gluharov was the president of a helicopter and airplane company in Manhattan Beach, California, and he commissioned this painting of the Flying Saucer of the Future and unveiled it in the late 1955 meeting of aviation and electronic company executives. According to Gluharov, the saucer was designed for exploring far beyond the Earth's atmosphere and gravity field. He speculated that such a craft could fly to Venus and back in 30 minutes, since the speed of light was not even considered a limiting factor in the drive unit. When people heard that at the time, they laughed their heads off and they said it was impossible. But Dr. Haklav Havadi, an associate researcher in physics with an associate of Dr. Albert Einstein, claimed that the speed of light was not a limiting factor for a spaceship if it was equipped with an anti-gravity drive, thus affirming Gluharov's Flying Saucer of the Future as more than just a mere fantasy. Now, in 1955, William P. Lear spoke about planned anti-gravity ships for the near future. On the 21st of November, 1955, he said, "I am convinced that it will be possible to create artificial electrogravitational fields whose polarity can be controlled to cancel out gravity. All the mass materials and human beings within these fields will in essence become part of them." And we know the connection of the Lear Corporation with UFOs, with the Skunk Works, with Area 51. So if you ever wonder where it began, you could listen to a lot of speculation or take Lear's words right out of an interview with a New York aviation editor. Okay, now the test pilots that were going to fly our anti-gravity saucers. Lawrence D. Bell, the founder and president of Bell Aircraft Corporation of Buffalo, New York, uses a Japanese ivory ball that's on the right to illustrate his view that humans before long will operate planes outside of the Earth's atmosphere, aerospace planes, then outside the gravity field of the Earth. United States Air Force test pilots with him are Lieutenant Colonel Frank J. Everest, nicknamed Pete Everest, Major Charles Yeager, the famous X-15 pilot in the light suit in the center, and the uniform next to President Bell of Bell Helicopter and Aircraft is Major Arthur Murray, also of the Air Force. Okay, let's meet one of the test pilots, and this is Lieutenant Colonel Everest at the controls of many of the X-2 rocket planes' record-setting test flights. Everett flew over 150 combat missions also during World War II and became a test pilot after the war, setting several speed marks and establishing an unofficial altitude record of 73,000 feet in a Bell X-1 rocket at a speed of nearly 2,000 miles per hour. Bell was president of Bell Aircraft Company, headquartered in Buffalo, New York, that designed and built the rocket plane. Bell believed his company could also build an interplanetary spaceship based on the principles of anti-gravitation. Now, at the time in the 1950s, all of us kids that were growing up then were very fascinated with everything outer space, and science fiction movies and rocket ships and Commander Cody and all this stuff. But this is typical of the zeitgeist or the spirit of the age. Captain Quick's large punch-out book. So you see flying saucers, rocket ships, ray guns, spacesuits on the moon, and all kind of neat stuff to inspire us. So if we would have kept up at that rate, a lot of us would be enjoying lives in space stations and other planets and everything. A power of the future. This is G. Harry Stein, the former chief of Navy operations at the White Sands Proving Grounds in New Mexico. And I have photos of the various kind of missiles they were developing there from the files of contactee named Daniel Fry, who flew in a remote controlled ship over there in 1949. But anyway, he believed that rockets would one day be replaced by electromagnetically powered anti-gravity interplanetary spaceships. So I found several articles on him and his proposals. So in moving from rockets to G engines, we see that rockets are like, glorified fireworks, really, Roman candles. But real space exploration, where we take easy journeys to other planets in our solar system and beyond, requires something more than rocket engines. And so these were the G engines that were being developed at this time. This is an illustration of a Michael Gladich article in the American Modeler in November 1956, and gives a hint to his blockbuster revelations that would appear in Mechanics Illustrated magazine in the following year. Then he interviewed former Nazi scientists Dr. Ernst Stuhlinger and Dr. Werner von Braun. They were both members of America's Operation Paperclip contingent. They were brought to help us close the missile gap with the Soviets, discussing revolutionary modes of spaceship propulsion with the aviation journalists that appeared in that Mechanics Illustrated article in July of 1957, where revealed to the readers of Mechanics Illustrated the plans on the drawing board of the Defense Department for the manufacture of an interplanetary G-ship that can fly at the speed of light, making a round trip to Venus in about 30 minutes. It's interesting that in many of these articles, it references this interplanetary G-ship making these trips back and forth to Venus, to the exclusion of these other planets. So that makes me wonder, exactly what they knew about Venus. And they were going to Daniel Fry and George Adamski and George Van Tassel and asking all these questions about Venus. So something was going on there. Okay, now we have Michael Faraday. Michael Faraday was born in 1791 through 1867, and he contributed greatly to our overall study and understanding of electromagnetism and electrochemistry. And his main principles underscored electromagnetic induction, diamagnetism, and electrolysis, and he served to spark, pardon the pun, a fascination by all with electricity that has never quit. Now I'm taking a look at really cool stuff from the 1950s when they were inspiring an early generation about the applications of electricity to form a world beyond imagination, a world full of wonders and Jetson-like kind of things. October 1954, engineer Jack Fletcher demonstrates a revolutionary lamp in his West Covina, California, 21st century home. I remember when, like, when Disneyland, that first 10 years or so that it was open, they had a world of tomorrow. They had like Visiphones and all this cool stuff, experimental stuff in there. Some of it's already, come about. But others have kind of been gone by the wayside. This is a floating pan. Mrs. Joan Fletcher demonstrates cooking skills with a floating pan that's electronically suspended over a magnetic repulsion stove. And she's cooking eggs and stuff and in this pan, and it's really quite cool. Here, Jack and Joan Fletcher of West Covina, California, are seen driving their children off in a hovering electric car. So where they were going, it's like Doc Brown on Back to the Future. They don't need roads to where they're going. Then, are you cosmic? So this is stuff that's going on outside of the research laboratories that people are getting caught up in this craze. It's an information pamphlet from the Greater Redondo Beach in California, Chamber of Commerce Consolidated, 1954. The caption reads at the very bottom there, in the L-shaped one on the right side, by the photo, it says where the huge tower is. This is the John C. Roberts Company experimental power plant where energy is beamed through the earth as an electromagnetic beam without wires or other visible type of transmitters, powering farm tillage implements, tractors, mills, boats, etc., and the flying saucers all operated by remote control. So they were trying to empower people with this kind of technology. They had devices that could pick up conversations on the other side of the world, even before satellites. Just, see some kind of neutrino beam. It's just amazing stuff. And then, of course, in Hollywood, they were picking up on this. The spaceship on the left is from the beleaguered planet Metaluna in the 1955 sci-fi movie classic This Island Earth, Universal Pictures, incorporating then many of the extant theories of anti-gravitational propulsion. And then the one on the right, anti-gravity saucer capable of hyperspace travel, as seen in the 1956 MGM classic Forbidden Planet. Now, the costume designer of that movie was Helen Rose, and a very famous seamstress whose pictures have shown up at various places and being identified as a Venusian, worked with her in the costume department there. There was a lot of Hispanic women that don't get credit. They were working behind the scenes. These science fiction movies, Creatures of the Black Lagoon, Forbidden Planet, Queen of Outer Space, making props and designing clothes and so forth. And then the other people were taking all the credit. But I point out these things in my book, these little tidbits. So ever wonder who robbed you of your Jetson-like utopian future? Well, just remember that an informed citizenry is our best defense in preserving liberty. So we had a timeline. We were on a positive timeline for a future in a paradisical world, on the way to one that would parallel conditions on Venus. So what happened? What happened to it, and where did things start to go wrong? That's why it's important not only to read my books, but also Alfred's books too, as well on the chronography, because that is for sure one of the answers to this whole enigma. And thank you very much. That's just one chapter in the book.
Oh, yeah. Stay with this slide. Could you please?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Is this does this conclude the PowerPoint?
Oh,
Here?
yes.
Yeah. Okay. But please stay with the slide. There are 2 points that I'd like to ask you about. Okay, number one, and by the way, congratulations. This is really a breakthrough slide presentation, I do believe. So thank you very much.
Oh, you're quite welcome. I don't know how much time I have left in this material world, and I want to.
Oh boy!
In the hurry to write all these Venus books. Of course, this is already book number 7.
Oh wow! Wow. Well, and we'll ask you in just a moment where to get your books. But first, I want to bring up 2 issues. Number one, all of these dates. I mean, the date that most came out was 1955. 1955 to 1957. Those were the Eisenhower years. And as we know, Valiant Thor was the Venusian ambassador that lived in the Pentagon, the Eisenhower Pentagon during the Eisenhower years. So do you think the fact that Valiant Thor was in the Eisenhower Pentagon in the 1955 to 57 timeframe, I wonder if you could confirm that, was a factor behind this utopian future? Question mark. Over to you.
Oh yes, it most certainly was, and all the machinations that were taking place in the Pentagon and so forth. I examined in great detail the appearance in that same period in a polar orbit when we didn't have any satellites capable of polar orbits, yet there were 4 unknown satellites that Donald E. Kehoe wrote about that were orbiting the Earth, and then one huge mothership appeared that they called the Black Knight, and it was in that. So I have a chapter in tracing the Black Knight, and tying him in with Valiant Thor, and of course I'm currently writing a series that people can read for free. I'm already up to part 24 on the God's Celestial Ambassador, the life and times of Dr. Frankie Stranges, who revealed all this material. And of course, here's I don't know if you can see that in the little box, but
yes, the button of some sort.
Oh yes, that's the order of Melchizedek, Dr. Frank.
Oh.
Dr. Frank Strange's for members of the inner circle to get these to get these medallions. So a lot of information never.
Oh, so is that yours or?
Yes, that's mine.
Oh well, congratulations. I mean, Melchizedek is a very honored, and if you go to sources, interdimensional sources like the Urantia book, the Melchizedeks are an order of interdimensional spiritual beings that do very, very high service for light-bearing planets. So congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Yes, Dr. Frank believed, as Billy Graham did as well, that angels and aliens were synonymous, and he had 4 classifications of angels, and of course the ones that we need to be worried about are the more manipulative, archonic type fallen angels,
Right.
which is very good because you also discuss those in the chronography.
Yeah, yeah. Now this brings me to my second question, okay? And part of my background, you may know, was that Representative Henry B. Gonzalez of Texas, when he was chairman of the House Banking Committee, invited me down to Washington when he was trying to get the House Select Committee on Assassination started to investigate the assassination of John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and Malcolm X as, real game changers. And I went down there and had lunch with the Congressman Gonzalez. And the result after that was that we got that committee started, okay? And this brings me to the fact that what was the big event that happened right after this period of 1955-57, the utopian future? We had the coming of the white knight, President John F. Kennedy, which he was a deep space soul. He was a very remarkable soul that came here, and he was assassinated. And it was immediately after that the deep state and the Matrix turned this around, got us involved in Vietnam and the endless wars, and took the utopian future and flushed it down the toilet. So you're asking, who robbed you of your jet-like future? And that was the parties behind the assassination of John F. Kennedy, who were the reptilians and their agents in the Pentagon, the CIA, the monarchies, all of that. And that the war party, it was that. That's my hypothesis. That's a question mark. Over to you.
Oh yes. Well, it's like that song. That's the day the music died. I think everybody's heart sank that day, November 22nd, 1963. It was, like the party's over. Everybody just kind of knew that was the end of the road. And I kind of see right now we're going through this we're going through this hard times, but these lockdowns and everything, what they've done is to dishearten us, and to it's like every day is going through the same Groundhog Day scenario, more lockdowns, more variants, but it's they're consolidating control over this whole thing. It's very disturbing, and as the little businesses go out, then all these big corporations are sucking up all the money and the capital, the energy, and everything, and they're becoming more powerful. The state is becoming more powerful. So this is a dire trend, and it just seems to be accelerating. Now the Bible does say, as long as we're on Groundhog Day, I'll make a prognostication. The Bible does say that that in the times of the end, during the riding of the horsemen of the apocalypse, the four horsemen, it's the pale horse. The pale horse is the one that brings plagues and pestilence. But we know that when that comes in the final days of tribulation, in the last 3.5 years of the tribulation, when it gets real intense, that one is the one that's going to wipe out 1/3 of the world's remaining population. So the one that we've been through, although it's a harsh one, it's not the devastating one. This is kind of a test run. They just want to see how much they can get away with. And that's what it looks like to me. I might be wrong about that, but Dr. Frank predicted that this kind of thing would happen.
Yeah, now let me put a spin on it. Let me put a divine spin on it, okay? And this gets back to the Chronogarchy, the book that you reviewed. And
Yeah.
as you know, the Chronogarchy came out, it's really two books. It's the Chronogarchy, a non-fiction treatise, and it's timelines of the Chronogarchy, a multi-dimensional novel, a multi-dimensional novel. And what it says in the novel is that 2022 is the year in which the timeline split into the natural, organic Earth divine timeline and the AI archonic transhumanist timeline. And each one acquires a critical mass. And those entities, those 7 billion human beings, bodies, those with divine souls, keep their, are tuned into source, and they stay on the divine timeline. And those that are tuned into the AI, to the archons, to the diabolical, follow the timeline split into the AI timeline. And so if there's going to be a 1/3, maybe it's the 1/3 of those that really don't have divine souls. They've given over their souls to the invading sentient artificial intelligence, and they go off to the AI planet. And that's what Psychic and Chandler, Saratoga Ocean was saying too. And there was a convergence between the Chronogarchy novel, Timelines of the Chronogarchy, which is also available on Amazon, and you can pre-order it, incidentally, and it'll be available both in electronic and in soft cover as of March 1st. And so this is the prophesized time of the splitting of two worlds.
Oh, yes.
And it's really two timelines. So we still have the utopian future. It's those who have forsaken the divine timeline, it's their free will choice, and gone into the AI, that they go off into some AI timeline. And that's what the novel is really about. It's called Timelines of the Chronogarchy.
Well, I could see such a bifurcation happening, because in order to, but in order to get to that high number of casualties with 1/3, that would also have to include all the fence sitters as well, because Jesus said in the Bible that he wouldn't accept people being lukewarm about these things, that you're either with the plan or you're not. So he said it'd be like spewed out of his mouth.
This is the time of the separation of the wheat from the chaff.
Oh yeah. This is it. I mean, this is we're if we're not there already, we're pretty darn close to it.
Yeah. So this is where your I believe breakthrough slideshow really integrated itself with the basic message of the two Chronogarchy books, the nonfiction treatise and the novel, multidimensional novel, Timelines of the Chronogarchy. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Thank you for the opportunity of being here, and I hope we can do many more. Oh, sure. Now, where can people get your books? They can go to either get them from headlinebooks.com, or they can just type in Keller Venus in Amazon, and and all of them will pop up. But this is the one that they should look for with all this
Oh,
information
good.
and more.
Let
Flying
me bring you,
saucers.
maybe you want to come out of screen sharing so people can really see it.
Flying saucers from Venus, they come. The beautiful, beautiful lady with the red beret standing on the beach.
Oh, good, good. And let me do my own screen sharing just a moment so that people can take a look at this is the Chronogarchy book, which you can go, let me just bring that one up. Can you see that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's the Chronogarchy, how interdimensional quantum access time travel manipulates human events, human history, and the interlife. And then there's the companion novel, multidimensional novel, Timelines of the Chronogarchy. And that's the one where the timelines are in 2022, the timelines start flitting, and that's what Chandler Saratoga Ocean just came out with his video saying that. I was amazed. I stumbled on it, and here we have a convergence of the plot line of this novel and what a Chandler is just saying.
Well, here's something else in convergence with the Chronogarchy and Miss Ocean's statements. And it was just today. I opened my email once a day and check everything, and I get the bulletins from science magazines and journals. And there was an article in there about there are two black holes that are coming together in a nearby galaxy to our own galaxy, and scientists around the world now are getting ready to monitor this, because two black holes are going to collide with one another, and it said they're expecting it within 30 years, and it's going to create a flash that will be seen all around our known universe. And it's going to create some weird kind of electromagnetic effects, possibly time distortions and everything. And it may even be creating them right now. Plus, as we're messing around with CERN and all this stuff, who knows what the heck we're opening up over there.
Oh.
I mean, this is very, very real, and it's very, very timely. And also,
no pun intended.
Yeah, yes. And the cover of your book with the galaxies coming close, they're close and they're swirling around together. It's just like the picture in that science article today of the two black holes at the center. It's got the same design with the hole in the middle and the swirls and everything.
Timelines. Maybe that's what ascension is all about.
Yes, it could. It could be, because we've got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Hopefully to Venus.
Yeah, things are good. Well, look, this is really exciting, and I think that this is just a start. And so I really want to thank you, Ray, Dr. Raymond Keller, for all of the effort that you put in today and in your entire career. And I look forward to working together with you on all of these issues as the Chronogarchy books come out, as your books on Venus develop more. I hope to have a longer conversation with you about Omniversity. People can go to omniversity.us and take a look at all of the resources there. We'll have another campus opening up there soon. So thank you so much. So tell us again where people can get in touch with all of your resources.
Okay. The best thing to reach me, you could reach me by You can reach me by email. It's probably the best best thing. You could go to the thepromiserevealed.net. All one word, the promise revealed, and then .net. And several of my articles are posted on there. It's Rob Potter's site out in Mount Shasta. And you could also order books from there too, if you'd like, or just go to Amazon and just type in Keller Venus, and it should take you to a listing of all my books, and they're all rated very highly for the most part.
Very good. Very good. Well, thank you again. And we'll talk to you soon.
All righty, my friend. Thank you very much. And God bless you all mightily till we meet again.
Excellent. Thank you.
I know.